KREM 2 News begins now.
Thank you for joining us on KREM 2 Plus. I'm Tim Pham. This is your KREM 2 News Week in Review. Join us as we take a closer look at some of the biggest stories in the Inland Northwest this past week.
There's so many construction projects around the entire city at this point that drivers are just frustrated about it. Not only are they getting stuck in more traffic, but it's also a bit confusing. So take a look behind me here. Like you mentioned, I'm at 29th, and you can see how much traffic is backed up beyond Southeast here. That way, same thing as the other direction too. Both directions we're seeing that back up there because of this construction. This one specifically is 29th Avenue between Bray and Grand. That's down to one lane in both directions. It's two separate projects to fix the pavement and add in ADA ramps. We talked to a business here in the area who says they're concerned people will forget about them during all this construction. And we also talked to a few frustrated drivers.
It's more back up to normal, but now instead of going that way, I just go out that way but it's frustrating. And it gets frustrating having them to have to do it over all the time. Yeah.
Another big project starting up again in Spokane County is on Bigelow Gulch Road. That's closed between North Havana Street and Wiley Road. Crews are doing a lot to the road there. They're putting two more lanes in. They're widening the shoulders. They're adding turn lanes and taking out some of the curves in the road to make it safer. Now, these two are just some of the two bigger projects. They're going to impact more people, but there's also other smaller projects the city has started across Spokane as well. 37th and Crestline, one that started today. They also are doing a project at Grace and Cleveland. Those, again, are a little bit smaller in terms of impact. So those are more residential closures. So those are just kind of something to know if you live in that area or drive in that area specifically. In Spokane, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
This is where the shooting happened just after firefighters put out this house fire in west central Spokane. Now, emergency responders, they have to prepare for anything that could come up on a call. But the shooting here caught them all by surprise. The chaos here in west central started with a fire, but it didn't end there. While firefighters worked to contain this house fire, police began investigating what could be arson. Spokane Police say a man on scene was not cooperative and started walking away. When they tried to detain him, SPD says he was carrying a gun and shot it. Officers returned fire and hit him. Although life-saving measures were taken, the man died. The Spokane County Sheriff's Office is now leading the investigation into the shooting. The fire department says the fire started in an upstairs bedroom. This is one of the 3 bedrooms, and it saw the most severe fire damage.
So devastating and hurtful.
In the daylight, Susan Crouch can't believe what's happened to her home of 22 years.
And look how now it looks totally night and day. Totally different. It's like being bombed.
She says leading up to the fire, tensions were high among her tenants.
Last couple of days we were really uneasy because one of the girlfriends, Leslie said, "Why are you shaking?" I said, "I feel uneasy, all this tension in the house."
That's why she wasn't surprised by the shooting. But firefighters on scene didn't expect the chaos of the fire would escalate to violence just outside.
We're getting into situations a lot more often than just these fire responses.
Public Information Officer Justin DeRuiter says firefighters are trained to keep their head on a swivel. And before that, dispatch alerts crews to anything unusual.
Things change really quick, and so it's just a lot of situational awareness.
The shooting Sunday night put that awareness to the test.
These are just some added dangers that we haven't really had to deal with much in the past, not to this level.
Investigators are still looking for what started this chaotic night, but the fire department says it suspects arson. The Spokane Police Department put 2 of the officers involved in the shooting on administrative leave, which is standard procedure. Now, the names of those 2 officers and the man who died will be released later on. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
A lot has happened in the last year with all of this. So first, I just want to break down how we got here and what's next for the university. If you remember, back in February last year, the Northwest Commission on Colleges and Universities put NIC under a show cause sanction. Basically means NIC has to prove it's doing things correctly to be a college. The commission gave the college 18 things it had to work on. In April, the commission visited NIC to talk to staff and students. By July, the commission had said NIC could stay accredited for now, but they kept the college under review. Also in July, the university said they fixed half of the 18 issues, but the last 9 would take time. So the commission in July gave them until April 1st, 2025 to fix those last 9 problems. Almost 5 months go by then. Now we're in November. The commission says NIC was not making much progress. Another few months brings us to March. The commission sends NIC a letter saying they've fixed 2 of the 9 problems left. Now they have 1 year to the day to fix the rest. And in that year, we know in October, the commission will be visiting again. All of that, of course, is huge. We have a university potentially losing its accreditation, but most of the problems are administrative. NIC has been pretty clear they are not doing anything wrong when it comes to how students are learning, and the students seem to agree.
Oh.
Running sunset drills is what's on the forefront of Hunter Walden's mind.
No way.
Not North Idaho College's accreditation problems.
I don't think it really affects us day to day at all, really.
Hunter is a freshman at NIC, meaning he chose this school after these problems started.
I had heard about it. My aunt and uncle live up here. You know, they kind of were like filling us in, but they weren't really worried about it.
Between his aunt, professors, and social media,
normally it just looks something like that. They have the red background.
Hunter has been somewhat in the know, and worst case scenario, he has a plan.
So if they did lose their accreditation, which I don't think is going to happen, at least I really hope not, and it doesn't look like it based off of what they're communicating to us, I'd just probably go to University of Idaho.
He has reason not to be too worried at this point. Even if NIC loses accreditation, they're working on agreements with other institutions to make sure students can finish their degrees.
At least I'm not waking up like dreading the fact that, oh my gosh, NIC might lose their accreditation or something,
So for now, day by day, accreditation is really not on Hunter's mind.
Oh, Elijah.
Or on the minds of a lot of other students we talked to. In Coeur d'Alene, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
Being chief of police is something Captain Anthony dAlene thought might be a possibility someday. Well, that someday has arrived, and he's looking forward to serving as Moscow's new chief of police. As the newness of spring begins to bloom in Moscow, changes are also coming to its police department.
Well, I'm humbled. This is quite an honor.
Captain Anthony dAlene is stepping into a role that's several years in the making, Moscow's new chief of police. So has it hit you yet, though?
Not quite. Not quite. I think the closer we get to May 1st, it'll certainly become real.
dAlene brings 17 years of law enforcement experience to the job, a career that started after graduating from the University of Idaho.
I was one of those kids that came up here for college, and I just never left. I fell in love with the area and ended up putting down roots and started my career at the sheriff's office, and here we are 22 years later.
Finding new ways to serve the community he loves is what inspired him to become chief. But dAlene knows the job will have its challenges. He says the greatest being recruitment and retention.
I mean, our city continues to grow, our population continues to grow, and with that, I'll potentially be looking for adding more officers to the ranks as we continue to grow as a community.
Nationally, we have seen a trend of criticism against law enforcement. As chief, how will you navigate this national trend?
Yeah, thank you. I think the most important aspect of that is continuing our route of being the most professional, well-trained agency in the area that we can be.
Just over a year ago, 4 University of Idaho students were killed at their home in Moscow. As the public information officer at the time, dAlene says the national attention that year was difficult for the agency and the community.
It was something that we weren't particularly prepared for. No one suspected that story would be evolve into what it did.
How would you describe the Moscow community's relationship with the police department?
We're very lucky in this community, and we're sitting in this building because of that support.
By May 1st, Moscow's flowers will be in full bloom, and dAlene will begin the newest chapter of his career. dAlene's first order of business will be to fill his former position as captain and the position of a retiring captain. Reporting in Moscow, Amanda Roldy, KREM 2 News.
The
Latah County prosecutor claims 400 potential jurors are now tainted following a survey set up by the Moscow murder suspect's defense attorney. The prosecution argues the questions in the survey are biased and violate the court's dissemination order. Residents in Latah County recently received calls for a survey about the Moscow murder case. Latah County prosecutor Bill Thompson read a transcript in court from a recording of the survey questions. They include, have you read, seen, or heard about Brian Kohberger's arrest? That the DNA found on a knife sheath matched the suspect, or that the suspect stalked one of the victims. Thompson argues these are biased questions that impact the local jury pool.
We aren't getting ourselves back into a similar situation, baiting people who may have no knowledge of this case with detailed information, and detailed information, some of which is completely false. And not only completely false, but it's false in a sense that makes Mr. Kohberger look bad.
Defense attorney Ann Taylor told the judge these types of surveys are commonly done in high-profile cases. She says the survey company she hired wrote the questions, and they created the survey based on media coverage of the case.
I do not think that these survey questions that related to what have you heard in the media injected information to people.
The judge put a pause on the survey 2 weeks ago until lawyers could meet to discuss it. He didn't make any decisions this afternoon, which means the survey will remain paused until the judge makes a ruling at the next hearing on Wednesday, April 10th. We also learned in the hearing today the defense had plans to run this survey in 2 additional counties located in southeastern Idaho. Now, defense attorney Ann Taylor said those counties were selected due to the size of the courthouse, the available security, and that they had a large population, which means a large jury pool. Reporting in Moscow, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
I talked to the Coeur d'Alene police chief right after today's meeting. He said investigations like this take time, but he is hoping to have more solid information for us in the next few weeks. In the meantime, people living in Coeur d'Alene still are not satisfied. Person after person came to the stand with the same concern.
I appreciate and I support the apology to our visitors and the effort to investigate and prosecute the perpetrators. But I would say that we can't stop there. We need to also focus on proactively shifting our culture and preventing this from happening again.
Only one speaker took the opposite side, upset the whole community is under fire.
Disgusting. Slander is what it was. Where's the evidence? I would like to know.
The council says they do know, though, something happened.
Just because you don't know about a video doesn't mean something didn't occur, and a young woman certainly doesn't have to have a video to prove themselves that something occurred.
Beyond the incident last week, the executive director of the Human Rights Education Institute told the council people have been reporting more hate crimes year over year.
These vary from graffiti on bridges and park areas, an elementary student being called the N-word as they exited the bus, pride flags being stolen from multiple properties and off of a person, a student actually, and destroyed in the bathroom, homophobic and racial statements on the boulevard.
In 2022, the Institute had 25 reports. In 2023, 39. And in just the first 3 months of this year, 30.
But I would also say that our community's worked really, really hard to be welcoming and to overcome any sort of stain that we might have had in the past. There's a lot of people who've worked really hard to do that, and I think we can do that.
These residents asking the council, though, to do more to stop these incidents. In Coeur d'Alene, Nicole Hernandez, KREM 2 News.
I'm here on Sherman Avenue where police say those racial slurs were made. Groups gather here today to show their support for the Utah women's basketball team. When Dixie Stensgar heard of the racial slurs that were said to the Utah women's basketball team on March 21st,
that just needs to stop.
She knew she wanted to take action.
The outright racism that's kind of been building and people are comfortable with here in this town is not only appalling, but it's disgusting.
Stensgar is part of the Coeur d'Alene tribe. Members of the Coeur d'Alene, Nez Perce, and Kootenai tribes came together in response to the racial slurs.
We all just kind of got together and decided, yeah, we'll just march in solidarity walk in solidarity with those young girls and let them know that we truly apologize.
The march was called Shawls in Solidarity. Members say they wore shawls as a way to be visible in the community.
I was very sad for the young ladies that had to experience that.
Jeanette Laster is the executive director for the Human Rights Education Institute in Coeur d'Alene, an organization that works to educate people around human rights issues.
I was pretty confident that at some level we would obtain video at some point.
Laster says the evidence that police found gives a clearer indication of where the investigation is going.
Given the outcome of the release yesterday, I think it is leaning towards an actual crime.
As for tribe members like Rachel Edwards,
that's what the goal of this, we can do more, and if more people can step up against racism.
She's happy police have corroborating evidence to back up the basketball team's versions of events.
They have to face what is real. You can't deny it didn't happen when it did.
Edwards hopes it leads to further progress in the investigation. I did have a chance to speak with Coeur d'Alene Police today. They told me they will not be releasing the audio of the racial slurs at this time, as it is still an ongoing investigation. In Coeur d'Alene, Nathan Hyun, KREM 2 News.
Yeah, so from the outside out front here, things don't look too different at Avista Stadium, but they have put millions of dollars into renovations here. Now, the reason they're doing this is because the MLB had told the stadium they needed to make some big upgrades in order to stay up to standard. They're not quite done yet, but they've made a ton of progress.
So this is the new home clubhouse. So there is now more space for the players. There's a commissary, there's a new athletic training room, and an updated clubhouse for the players. We switch sides for the team. So the home team will now be on this third base side. The visiting team will be on the first base side. This is what we're looking at right now. Gotcha. And then it should zoom out, and you can see that it will be the new hitting facility and the new weight room.
That's awesome, that's sweet. And then this park too?
Yeah, so right over here, this is Molina Field. We added some space to the wiffle ball area, to the grass area as well. So just some additional spaces for fans to enjoy during the games. Out here, one of the new things that people will see is that batter's eye there. So that is a Major League Baseball requirement. On the other side of that batter's eye will be our new grounds crew building.
How long did it take you guys to get to this point? Like, when did you start these renovations?
The renovations themselves started really right after our season, so September or so of 2023, knowing that we had roughly an April 1st deadline for the team to arrive.
How much more do you have left?
After the season this year, they will work their way onto the field. So we will do a full field renovation. We will do a dugout renovation and upgrade on both sides as well. We will have spectator netting from foul pole to foul pole, padded outfield walls. Those are the primary projects that we have to finish off those Major League Baseball standards and get us compliant.
Do you have a deadline to meet the rest?
We do, yeah. We'll be fully compliant by opening day of next year.
Wow, that's so fast.
Yeah, it's been several years coming, but we feel really good about it, and we're excited about the changes, and they're welcome upgrades for the players, and we should have some great fan amenities.
Before Prairie Falls Golf Course completed its changes to its course last year, Richard Hutchins would only find an occasional ball or two reach his yard. But now he's collected 300 golf balls over the past year, some of which have damaged his home. Tucked away in the Prairie Falls Golf Course community, this yard, bordering the golf course, catches the eye of many golfers.
We've had people tell us that we have the prettiest yard on the whole course, but we work hard at it. We're constantly working on it.
But over the past year, Richard Hutchins is doing work he wasn't expecting.
And a lot of repairs have to be done now.
Repairs, he says, are the result of stray golf balls leaving holes in his siding and his window.
You can see the break right there. That's the second time that window's been broke.
Hutchins recognizes these are risks that come with a home on the golf course.
When you live on a golf course, you expect a ball or two to come into your yard once in a while. The damage is what we're concerned about.
He believes the damage is the result of the golf course moving the tee box of hole 1 several yards closer to his home.
The hole has changed. It has gotten a little bit shorter. Inherently, that's going to put other homes in danger.
Head golf professional Joshua Greiner sympathizes with Hutchins' situation, but he says it's the same situation his neighbors were in before they moved the tee box.
If you look behind me, you can see that there's nets throughout the backyards, and those nets are up purposely, so some of those nets might not see as many golf balls now as we move the hole. But again, we're going to move the hole back a little bit, and we'll see what happens.
With help from family, Hutchins put up one section of netting in his backyard, and he'll put up more if that's what it takes to protect the home others have come to appreciate in passing. In Post Falls, Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
While drivers could expect delays of up to 30 minutes during tomorrow's morning commute, I'm under the Spokane River Bridge where crews will begin their inspection. If you plan on driving across the Spokane River Bridge, it most likely won't look like this, one lane open in each direction. Instead, expect slow traffic as only one lane will be open for both directions.
We try and plan them to minimize impacts to traffic.
Heather McDaniel with the Idaho Transportation Department says from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. tomorrow, crews will be on the Spokane River Bridge to conduct routine safety inspections.
It's just part of our routine safety to go and make sure that everything is working as it should be.
The inspection requires workers to check the bottom of the bridge. Take a look at some of these pictures sent to us from ITD. These are under-bridge inspection trucks which will be used in tomorrow's inspection.
That is the reason for the lane closure. The truck is pretty large, and so we need a safe area to be able to set that up.
These trucks help lower crews beneath the bridge. There are only 2 in the state, and they even have their own names.
One of them is named Kenny and the other one is Tootsie.
During the inspection, crews will look for loose bolts, stress fractures, or cracks on the bridge. McDaniel says delays, especially during the morning commute, could get up to 30 minutes.
Safety is a huge priority, and so many cars, there's thousands of cars that travel on these bridges every single day throughout the state, and so it's our responsibility to make sure that those are completely safe.
McDaniel says if crews do find something wrong, further work could be done.
If any deficiencies are found with the bridge, those will obviously be assessed by a team of engineers to determine whether it's still safe for the public to travel.
This inspection comes just a week after the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed in Baltimore that claimed the lives of 6 people. McDaniel says the inspection is not related to that incident. These inspections are sometimes planned years in advance and happen every 2 years. The Idaho Transportation Department is asking drivers to plan ahead and allow for extra time. The department is asking drivers to slow down when driving around areas where crews are working. In Coeur d'Alene, Nathan Hun, KREM 2 News.
After one of the greatest seasons in Washington State men's basketball history, in the blink of an eye, it's the start of a new era, the David Riley era. Now, Riley knows the area just about as well as anybody can. He played college ball at Whitworth and spent the last 13 years at Eastern Washington. He's wanted to stay in the Inland Northwest, and now he gets to do just that.
I think this is such an amazing opportunity for me. Like, this is a dream job for me. This is unbelievable. I'm so excited to be at Washington State University. It's the perfect spot for the way I want to run a program.
Riley calls it a dream job. WSU President Kirk Schultz calls it the perfect fit.
The primary thing I wanted us to do in the search is find an exceptional basketball coach that fit our culture. Secondary is the area where they're from, those types of things. And if you get both of those, I think that's great. If I go back to what Coach Dickard mentioned this last week, we want people who want to be here. I think you add all those 3 things together, and that was an N of 1. And lucky that he said yes.
Rather than overhauling the program, Riley was adamant that he hopes to keep a roster that is up in the air intact.
I want these guys because they're really good, and we're going to keep going like this. We're going to keep that same trajectory. With the guys we have, we want guys that want to be here.
The good news is a number of players showed up to the press conference. Like the players, Riley embraces the underdog mentality.
While I was at Eastern Washington, we did the same thing. We had an underdog mentality. We had a fighting mentality. We had a group that wasn't necessarily the McDonald's All-Americans or whatever you want to call it, the five-star guys, but we came in, we worked, we got better, and we had a developmental program. And I think that these guys have that same mindset.
So much so, he's already thinking of a name for his offense.
We're going to have a unique style. I think the pace and space and the concept offense are kind of the two things, but I like the Wheatfield underdogs. I'm sticking with that.
The Wheatfield underdog offense, he's already sounding like a Coug. Speaking of Cougs, as you just heard there, Riley's hoping to keep this roster intact. Certainly bodes well that Andre Yakimovsky, Jalen Wells, and Ruben Chinyelu were all in attendance today. He's certainly hoping to keep those guys here in Pullman. Reporting from Pullman, Travis Green, KREM 2 Sports.
Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 Plus for a look at some of the biggest news stories of the past week. For the most current news throughout the weekend, you can watch our latest newscast right here on KREM 2 Plus. Just look for them in the bottom navigation menu. I'm Tim Pham. Thanks for watching.